Hello, everybody. We're
Hi,
going to wait for a
guys.
while as as some people kind of get connected. I can see some of you on. Tara, I see you.
Don't be
How's
me.
everybody doing? If you're not familiar with webinar, GoToWebinar, there is a chat feature at the bottom. We won't be able to allow you to have audio, or we can't see you, but you are more than welcome to chat. Put some comments down there and we can read those in live time. Kent Jones is back. Good to see you, Kent. I never made it home, so I'm here in my lovely, messy office here. So, Kristen, how was your day?
It was really good.
Good.
I recorded our lessons for Sunday. Check your emails, parents. Those sent out. Got the place disinfected again. It was really good.
Yep. Yeah. If you don't know, we're doing online services this week, which includes that we were going to have children's ministry options were sent out to you. So Kristen worked hard in getting her lessons out, her curriculum stuff, and what all is included with yours?
I have videos for elementary and early childhood, and then I have a craft and coloring pages for elementary and a discussion page or early childhood, and then discussion for elementary.
Cool. And I made about a 13-minute devotional thought video, which is part of our curriculum stuff that we've been going through, talking about unbelievable, which is dealing with doubt. And then there's also some discussion questions that you can go through as a family. And this Sunday night, I thought we might do a kind of informal, nothing really planned, but just a 30-minute student ministry get together where it'll be on GoTo Meetings, which I'll send out a link, but we'll maybe do some online scavenger hunt stuff. So we'll try that out. Well, anyway, so glad that you guys are here. Thank you for joining us. This is our first ever webinar, so you'll have to be nice to us. We're kind of feeling this out, but we're excited. In all honesty, Chris and I have been looking at doing some of these webinars for a while. We were talking about it, I don't know what, September, October, something like that. About a month ago, we decided to pull the trigger and start paying for GoToWebinar and just kind of figuring it out. And then all of a sudden, this happened. So it kind of changed our focus and our timeline on when we were going to start this, but it was already something we were working on. But we just wanted to have a few moments to talk to everybody, and we know that life has just kind of gotten pretty crazy. There's a lot of unexpected things that have happened recently, and we just wanted to have some moments to talk with you and hopefully be able to make some keep everybody sane a little bit, kind of talk about how do we do that? How do we deal with some of the chaos that's going on in our lives right now? So anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about. Like I said, there's a chat feature down there. Feel free to chat with us, especially at the end. We're looking at doing a little question and answer. If you have anything that you'd like to ask us, we'll answer to the best of our abilities. And later on, we'll also have a poll that you can do. So we'll just kind of guide you through all this. Kristen, would you be willing to do a short prayer really quick?
Yeah, for sure. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity and just the gift of technology. We didn't know we would need this, but Lord, we're just so thankful for your foresight in all of this. And we just thank you for the people joining us, parents or not parents. And we just ask that we would take away what you want us to take away, and that it is that you are a good and kind God in the midst of all this fear and anxiety. I just thank you for these parents and these people who have kids in their life who are tuning in, and just pray that Cody and I can do the jobs that you have set out for us. And we're so thankful for that, Lord. Just ask that you join us in this webinar, and amen.
Amen. And for those of you that don't know us, my name is Cody Shepard. I am the student pastor at Southwoods Christian Church, and this is
Kristen Perkey. I'm the children's director at Southwoods.
So we are blessed to be able to work with a lot of your kids. We love what we do. We love Southwoods, and we just thought we'd get on here, and hopefully this will be a blessing to you. We live in I know that you guys would agree that right now we're living in a pretty crazy world. Things are happening. There's a lot of at least just what I feel from people is there's just a lot of fear, a lot of confusion, and even some mass hysteria. It's like, what is going on? The other day on Tuesday was Aaron's birthday, and so we couldn't eat out, so we decided we'd get pickup, and I went to go pick it up, even though it was a sit-down restaurant. We couldn't go in, and I was just talking to the guy, and who was bringing out the food to us, and he's like, this is crazy. I don't even know what this means. And then there was other people who were there to get pickup, and I just started talking to them, and just the feeling I get from people are our heads are spinning, and there's just so much that we just don't know about, how's this going to affect life? How's this going to affect so many things? And so there is just fear, confusion, mass hysteria. But as Christians, we're not called to live that way. It doesn't mean that we don't experience some of that. But if you think about it, if we live in fear and confusion and hysteria, what does that say about our faith? So it's this discussion that we want to have today of how do we not live in fear, but live in wisdom, still be smart about everything, but yet still have confidence in who God is. So that's really what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk a little bit about, what we're seeing with the pandemic. How do we talk to our kids about these things and our families? We're going to talk a little bit about how to use this opportunity to pause and listen to God. But then also, how do we press play and also be a light into the world around us? We still are called to be the church. So how do we do that? So we're going to try to cram this all in pretty quick. Obviously, if you guys can't stay for the whole thing, yeah, you can check out at any point, and we'll have a recording that you can check later. But this isn't the first pandemic that the church has faced. This world has had pandemics before. Christians in the Roman times, there was some pandemics, and in the medieval times, and there was the things that we see that people wrote down, the historians wrote down, is that they actually made note that Christians reacted differently than everybody else. When families were even leaving their own family members out of fear, Christians were actually they were seeking to find the sick and the orphaned and the poor, and looking to serve them. And in fact, as weird as it might sound, the Christian faith has grown dramatically historically during some of these really scary times, because Christians have been a light into the world around them. Yet at the same time, we know some different things now than from back then. And for one, I mean, healthcare is a whole bunch different, and there is far superior than what it used to be. And there's some people who are very specialized in what they do. And what they're telling us is that we need to have social distancing to really slow down the spread of this virus, so we can figure out a vaccine. So especially those who are vulnerable, they won't die or anything because of this. So the big question is, how can we be wise to this pandemic and yet not be fearful? How can we follow social distancing, and while also finding ways to connect and to serve other people? I thought I'd go through a few statistics, informational things about COVID-19 that I was getting from one of the head doctors I think his name is Dr. Collins, and I was listening to some Focus on the Family stuff, and he was actually he's one of the top in the nation when it comes to this specific type of stuff. And here's what he was saying. He was saying it is very serious. It spreads at a very fast rate. And because this is a brand new virus, nobody has immunity to it. So we have to be especially careful. It is a respiratory illness, that a virus that primarily affects the lungs. So people who are vulnerable, health vulnerable, especially in respiratory issues, this is something that they have to really be careful about, because it can really affect. The statistics that he gave these are really interesting, but he says, and they're still trying to figure these out, by the way, because, this is kind of a moving target on some of this, but as far as they can tell, possibly 30 to 40% of people are estimated to be affected by this at some point. So that's going to be a wide amount of people. And it seems like the death rate could be 1 to 2%, which is seems low, but it's like 10% or 10 times more than the flu. So I mean, we're talking about some pretty serious, important stuff, and it's the elderly who are the most at risk. In China, this is the statistic that China at least has said, is that people who are 80 plus years old, they figure that about 23% of them who have contracted it died. Now, they have a different healthcare system and a lot of other things, but I mean, I think we do have to be honest that this is a scary, challenging thing that we face. We don't want to be unreal about that. But at the same time, like I said, we are not called to live in fear. We have to learn, how do we deal with this fear that we have? Fear is not a new idea. It's not a new situation. Many people have been faced with fearful situations. You look in scripture, I mean, there is so many situations that people faced that were really fearful type of situations. And a couple that I was thinking about earlier that had some really great scriptures I thought I'd share to you. One is, Moses has been leading the Israelites through the desert for 40 years, and they're finally going to the promised land where God has promised that to them. And it starts off, you'll just see this said multiple times here, but in Deuteronomy, it actually says, it says this: the Lord will destroy the nations living in the land, just as, and he's talking about that, that God is going to be faithful in doing this. But it says the Lord will hand over to you the people who live there, and you must deal with them as I have commanded to you. In verse 6, it says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid and do not panic before them, for the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. And then Moses then turns to Joshua and says this to Joshua: be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land. And I just think, multiple times this is said, be strong and courageous. We believe if God is with us, he also goes before us. And we don't have to live in fear. We live in wisdom, but we do not live in fear. In Joshua 1:9, as they're going into the promised land, once again, here's what it says: this is my command, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. That is a promise. That was a promise to them, but it's also a promise for us today. Another passage that I was thinking about is in 2 Timothy. And Timothy was a young pastor who was learning how to lead. And Paul, the amazing man that he is, was speaking to Timothy and encouraging him and writing to Timothy about his own insecurity and fear. And here's what Paul says. He says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. And I'm just thinking, man, those words especially are during times like this are things that we need to listen and receive from God, especially in many ways that self-discipline. That's a thing that I think a lot of us are going to struggle with during this time of social distancing. Self-discipline on what we do and don't do, on just self-discipline on how we control our own emotions. So what do we do? Instead of living in fear, what we need to do is we need to be wise and rational. In many ways, this is how my life has been since we've had Jonathan in the winters. We've kind of had to practice this social distancing at times. So I kind of understand it, be wise. Of course, a lot of the things people are saying, wash your hands. That's better than anything else, is use soap. I'm sure many of you have seen the YouTube link where there's the germs. If you haven't looked at it, you should go do this. I'd seen this magic trick thing before, but I'd never saw it connected with germs. But how do you teach your kids about germs? You put a whole bunch of pepper into a water in a bowl, and they put their finger in it, and it kind of collects to their finger, and that's all the germs and stuff. But if you put a little bit of dish soap on the end of it, you put it in it, and all the pepper just goes away from it. And it helps kids to understand this is what happens when I use soap. All the germs go away from the soap. So it's a great way to teach them. But we want to be smart, we want to be wise, we want to be rational. And part of that is emotionally and mentally kind of how we deal with it. We don't let fear be a controlling factor in our lives. When One thing that we've done in our house during some of this, like what we've had to deal with over the last few years with some social distancing of our own, is 2 Corinthians 10:5. It talks about taking every thought captive, and I think that's so wise, because each one of us has these thoughts of fear and stuff that come into our minds, and what we have to ask ourselves is this something that is sounds like the character and the heart of God? Is this consistent with who He is? If it is, then it will be something I might listen to. But if not, we need to just be very careful. We need to not even give it the rental space in our head. We need to just get rid of it, because it's something that it's gonna put us in some bad places. So what that means is you don't need to go out and shop, once a quarter and buy like 3,000 rolls of toilet paper and 3 tons of hand sanitizer. You can go every week. You maybe once every 2 weeks or something. You don't need to, obviously don't go every day or something like that. Just be wise about it. You don't have to. There's other people who need that stuff too. So just be careful, and also be careful not to put other people in harm's way. That's another wise thing we can do. I've already talked to a doctor who she says that one of the biggest the things that they're facing is that there's all these kids out of school now, and they don't have anything to do, and so they are doing unwise things, and they're ending up in the hospital with some things that are taking up some beds that will probably be needed for people who get sick. So don't let your kids just go out and be kind of wild and crazy. Help them to follow some of these guidelines, to be wise as well, not only just for their own safety, but really for other people as well. When you look to serve others, find ways to do it with minimal contact if you can. We do want to serve other people, but we don't want to be unwise about it. Especially, I think students, teenagers sometimes can feel invincible. So, just guide them in some of that if you can. But here's the thing. I think we need to be very honest with our kids at the same time. Help them to see Jesus in the midst of the reality of all this. And as Christians, we've always been very generous. You look through history, Christians have been very generous because God has called us to be generous. And so think about the resources that you have. It could be financially, it could be other. And for some of you, one of the biggest resources, like maybe you've never had this resource before, but you have time. How can you use your time to really bless other people, to serve other people, to maybe give them a call, maybe write some notes? Just think about different ways that you can use your time to be able to bless other people. I wanted to take a moment, Chris and I are going to kind of talk about some different concepts that we've kind of thought through on how to talk with our kids in an age appropriate and careful level, on just the reality of what we're going through, of the virus. How do we do this without scaring them, but yet at the same time being honest with them? And the first concept that I just wanted to bring up was keep calm and communicate. Just make sure you keep calm and communicate. That means keep calm, but be also honest with them as well. Our children, they mostly learn how to deal with stress, anxiety, unexpected things, not by what we say, but by how you model those things. So just a quick story. Aaron and it was Jonathan and Judah at the time, about 4 years ago, got in a car wreck and flipped her car, totaled the car. Was a pretty scary situation. And there was a couple ambulances that came. Jonathan and I went down to Children's Mercy, but Aaron and Judah ended up going to KU Medical Center. And the first responder who was there was really amazed at Judah, who was only about 6 months or so old at the time. Was amazed at how calm he was, and he's a pretty chill kid overall anyway. But he said he could tell a huge difference with kids on they were much more calm when the parents had modeled that. And it is so true that I mean, if he's able to notice it in those kind of situations, then we need to just see that that's the reality, is that um, we teach through modeling first and foremost. um, Ways that we can communicate, just teach them at understandable or at age appropriate understanding levels. As kids develop, they go from understanding simple concrete concepts to more abstract concepts. And that means that the younger the kids are, the fewer and the simpler words that we use to explain something is better. As kids get older, we can use metaphors, analogies, and real life examples to help them understand. You might want to engage preteens and teens in discussions that allow them to come up with some of their own ideas for analyzing and managing daily concerns. Or you may just teach them you may teach them how to discern facts from opinions, which is a challenge I know for all of us sometimes too. Um, Give directions from few simple steps to many more complex steps depending on age. So just as an example, a 5-year-old might you might use 3 very simple steps. A 10-year-old, maybe you can use 6 steps that may offer some choices for each step and how they might do that. And then maybe 10 steps for somebody who's a little bit older, a teen, and create some personal decision making as part of that process. So those are just some ways that you can communicate, keep calm and communicate. Kristen has a little bit more here.
Yeah, so as we're going through and talking about it, Cody's talking about these statistics of there could be a real possibility that someone or someone in your family gets sick. And so especially younger kids, or maybe you have just an anxious kid in your home. And so I think one of the most important things, just like Cody said, like you're trying to be cautious and wise, but you're not acting out of fear. The Lord gave you a brain for a reason. And so we are, it's just simply saying we're washing our hands now and we'll continue to wash our hands to keep us safe and other people safe. A lot of the things parents are like, my kids will not stop asking to go to someone's home. Like they just want to be with their friends. And that can be so frustrating when you're like, we don't have school. Why aren't we going to Florida? Or why aren't we going to see our friends? But it's just the conversation of we're trying to keep us safe. We're also trying to keep other people safe. And so it's just being wise. And one of the things that's important too is just keeping to your established schedules and routines. Some of you might not ever had a schedule or routine in your home. So welcome to schedule and routine now with your kids in your home. But, just again, thinking of those anxious children or just kids in your home that are just like, hey, I'm just here, like, let's just do this, but just keeping something normal in your home helps a lot with that too. We're going to talk about this a lot later, but use this time for family fun. You've got children staring at you in the eyes going, what time are we going to eat? Where are the snacks? What can we do now? This goes back to schedule and routine, but also just using this time for fun. And we hear this all the time. I just wish we could spend more time with our families. Here it is. The Lord has just laid this in your lap. So let's do something with it. And there's nothing else going on in the news except the coronavirus. And so if you are one of those people who just constantly has the news on or it's on your phone, and you're around your kids, like we do, just maybe resist the urge to be checking that or talking about it in front of your kids. They absorb so much more than we really know possibly. And so I think like just resisting the urge maybe to constantly be talking about it, or constantly have it going on in your home, can help as well. And obviously the biggest thing, and we'll continue to talk about, just reminding them that God is in control. Just praying with your kids. This is just a little snippet from Psalm 91. It says, those who go to God Most High for safety will be protected by God All-Powerful. I will say to the Lord, you are my place of safety and protection. You are my God, and I trust you. God will save you from hidden traps and from deadly diseases. And so maybe it's just you learning small verses as a family to say like, okay, this is happening. Let's pray. God is not worried, so we should not be worried. Doing anything like that to help calm fears in your family.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And, we want to make sure that, one thing I encourage you is make sure you go to the right sources for information. There's a lot of misinformation and stuff out there. Go to the CDC, listen to your local people on some of the information that they give. If you know people in healthcare, those are good people to talk to as they kind of find out more and more about some of these things, because like I said, there's a lot of sources that you can hear, and it may not be true. So just don't add fear to the situation. Make sure you have reliable information on what it is. um, Things that I actually think that there's some good things that we can learn as a family through this, and so I'm just going to go through these really quick, but I think that these are 7 things that we can learn as a family. First one is adaptability. We're going to have to learn adaptability, and that means make every bite and wipe count. There's limited resources to some degree, and especially if we're looking to serve other people, be thoughtful about every bite you take. Thank you, God, for this that we have. And I also say along with that, take opportunities with every bite to go and to talk with your family, eat around the same table, and take advantage, take time with that. And also, toilet paper is like gold now, so make every wipe count too. So just the practicality of that. And number 2, intentionality. Be intentional about setting up spaces, for your family, for your kids, setting up their spaces at home, setting up your time and how you do that. Be intentional about your schedule. Number 3, be careful, or like set your boundaries and limits. This is going to be a time where you're especially going to need to set boundaries and limits, and that might be a new concept for some of you. And with everybody in the house all the time, you may not be used to that. And so setting boundaries and limits, whether it's social media usage, TV usage, whatever it is, because it could be easy to just get sucked down that warp of just doing that all the time. And honestly, along with that is just being thoughtful in the boundaries and limits of what I call parenting, meaning marriage parenting, parenting together in marriage. That there's going to be, you're going to have to work together on that. It's going to be something where there might be one parent who's trying to set boundaries and limits, and the other one is just like, what, I can't handle this, just whatever. And that's going to be some conflict. So be very careful and intentional about setting boundaries and limits together. You probably want to have a conversation before you just install these things. Number 4, grace and forgiveness. Everybody's going to have to learn this as a family together. Grace and forgiveness, understanding that these are just different times, and you're going to have to, you might be around each other more, so be doing that. It'll help lower anxiety. Just learning to have grace with each other, with your spouse and with yourself. Gratitude, be thankful. I know it seems like there's so many things being taken away from you right now, but you know what? I also have a belief that God will reveal some things that he's filling in our lives during this time. And just to be thankful for those things, be thankful for what we have, the people that we do have around us, be thankful for the love that God gives us. Number 6 is respect. Just build a solid foundation at your home with respect. That means respecting other people's boundaries, their opinions, their thoughts, their emotions, their all these different things, and understand that there might be moments where there's personal overload for you, and it's okay if you go into your bedroom for a few minutes and lock the door and just say, I need 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes, just let me be, and then I'll be back out and I'll be good. It can happen. Number 7 is steadfast love. We serve a God who steadfastly loves us, and we want to model that in our homes. And that's something that we can all practice. All 7 of those things we should practice together. And one of my big encouragements to you is your meal times together. Take advantage of those meal times. There's other good times too, maybe before bed and stuff, but I just encourage you to take time at your meal times. Maybe God has given you this blessing that you've never had before, and take advantage of that. Kristen's going to talk a little bit about pausing, and then I'm going to talk a little bit after that about how to press play.
Yeah. So we have been gifted this opportunity to slow down. And so I'm going to be talking about pausing and just using this time to listen to God in this craziness. And Cody and I meet fairly often. And one of the things that we always make sure we're remembering and make sure that we're talking about is that we don't want anything we do or put out to be a stress for you, to be like, oh, I'm not measuring up in this way as a parent, or we're not doing this as a family, but we just want to be giving you tools for your toolbox. When situations do arise, we want you to be able to look through what you've learned or look through what you have and be able to point your family back to the Lord and just give you resources. So if we can continue to help you to do that in any way, just please reach out to us. But we just want this to be just one more way for you to help your family. So one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, just being home by myself and just, traveling back and forth just to work is, what can I do during this time now to be healthier on the other side of this? I know one day this will end, and one day our lives will maybe become a new normal. There's be somewhat of a normal. And so what can we be doing today for my family to be healthier on the other side of this? And what can I be doing for my relationship with God to be healthier on the other side of this? And so when we think about the idea of pause and the idea of growing closer to God and to our families, if you look, you have a handout section. If you don't see that, you can chat in the box and let us know. We can help you. But if you see the handouts, one of the PDFs is how do I pause? And so if you want to check that out, you can click on that. Again, let us know if you don't see it. But there are different sections. And so how do I pause? Different sections like to unplugged, to actively rest, creative ideas, to actually rest. This is for you to have. If you can save it to your computers, or we can send this out at a different time. But there's just so many different ideas for you to do personally, but also for your family. One of the things that number 3, skip email. You might have your email ding, ding, ding on your phone. At this moment in this time, maybe take it off for a little bit. Take it off during the day. Number 6, go to church. Currently, we aren't having services in our facility, but we are on the live stream. So make sure you're tuning in with your family. Sit in your living room. And not to mention that every church in the nation is going to be on live stream. So you can, throughout the week, be checking out different recordings of different churches and what they're doing. Memorize scripture, take a nap. Your kids can have quiet time. Cody's family does that as well. I'm sure a lot of you guys do that.
It's my favorite time of the week.
That's right, yeah. I love the to rejuvenate, that's for you as parents. Cody said, like, you have permission to be like, you have touched me enough and you have asked me about snacks enough today. I'm going to go pause and be alone. I'll be back. You have permission to do that. But those are ideas for you and your family just to have. And so we just want that to just be a resource for you. Like we said, like the days are long, your kids are all home, maybe your husband's working from home, your wife is working from home, you are all here all day, all the time. And so this is just another time, it's just another heart posture idea, just to look your kids in the eye, pause with them right where they are, and just say, what are things we've been putting off as a family? What are things that we can do together during this time? And one of the things that we talked about is a family bucket list. You have a lot of time on your hands. And so one of the things that might be fun is just sitting down and making a list of fun things you want to do together. Now, it's not like go to the jump park or the trampoline places, but it might just be watch Frozen 2. I haven't done that yet. Cody did this weekend. Did you watch it this weekend? Blow bubbles.
Yep.
Yeah, we have so many kids in our ministry who that's one of their favorite things that we do. Blow bubbles with your family. Have a family game night. Check out Amazon. They have so many games that you can play. Bake something new. A family joke night. Everyone looks up their favorite joke and you do something. And you get to check it off as a family.
Yeah, you could do a talent show. That's what I was
Yes,
saying earlier. That'd be fun.
talent show. Yeah, absolutely. So family bucket lists. Another thing that's a gift. I remember growing up and my mom wakes us up and it is go time. Get dressed, get your breakfast. You woke up late. You have to get to school early. Let's roll. Like shove this breakfast in your mouth so we can go. But you've been gifted the opportunity that your meal times can be slower. Your mornings can be more relaxed. You might, for the very first time, be sitting with your family at your table. Did you remember that you had a kitchen table and that's what it's for? And so just using this opportunity to be more intentional, pausing and slowing down. One of a fun thing you can do in the mornings or in the evenings. This is from the same author that did the Jesus Storybook Bible. It says thoughts to make your heart sing. And so there's so many pages full of beautiful pictures on one side and then just cute little divas on one. So I'll show you this. It's a cute little mama hen and her babies. And it says, are you ever afraid? What do baby chicks do? At the first sign of danger, if there's a storm coming or a hawk hovering, a mother hen spreads out her wings and clucks to her babies, and they run straight under her feathers. The mother draws her wings in tight, tucking not every one of her little chicks safely under her. Nothing can touch those babies. And we have a Heavenly Father who says he loves us and cares for us like that. When we are afraid, he tells us to run to him. We can nestle up under his wings and he will protect us. And there's always a verse at the bottom, and this comes from Psalm 91 again. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. And so there's just so many different topics in here. So find a good diva that your family can do together. Another thing, like we said, you might be looking at your teenager in the face going, I do not even know how to talk to this person in my home. You know, your fourth grader starts talking a little bit differently. And you're like, okay, what are things that we can do? How do we do this together? Another thing in your handout, and we added quite a few, they're called dinner discussions, family dinner discussions, verse challenges. So these family dinner discussions, there's 52 of them. And one of my favorite ones is number 8. It says, what is a famous food or beverage factory that you would love to go visit and see how it's made? I would love to go to the Hawaiian Roll Factory and see those puppies come out. Like, I just would love to just be all up in that. So it's just fun conversation starters. You know, maybe someone at the dinner table picks one for the night. And that's what you go off of, or you have 3, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, something like that. But just using that time to pause and actually look each other in the eyes, you know, putting down your phone, turning off the TV and saying, I want to know you. I want to see what you're about, you know? Another thing is, we talked about this earlier, some of you might have anxious children in your home. It just might be heightened during all of this. And so one of the things that you can do to pause as a family is maybe, like we said earlier, finding a verse that you can memorize together as a family, or even finding a characteristic about God that you can repeat. Something that I wrote down this afternoon at work, because I was just going through all this news and all of this stuff going on. This says, God is not worried. Okay, that's my new mantra. God is not worried about any of this. I might be, but God is not. And so I can rest in that and calm my fears in that. And then something else I'm repeating is, I will wash my hands and stay home. Those are the things I can control in this situation. I can control how much I wash my hands, and I can control where I go, and I will go home. And so I think if that is something that you need plastered all throughout your home, if you need Psalm 91 plastered throughout your home, if you need God is not worried all around your home, do it. You know, this is the time to just really reassure your kids and pour into your kids. And, you know, even for yourself, like, this might not just be your kids, this might be you. And so we just really encourage you to do that. One of the last things, in the midst of this pause, we're also in the middle of Lent. And Lent is the season just to reflect. And we just want to let you know, and just the idea that it is okay to be both joyful and also sad. You know, it's okay to hold those in both of your hands. It's okay to be sad that your son might be missing out on his first baseball season. It's okay to be sad that the Royals, you know, you don't know what their season will look like. But it's okay to be joyful that for the very first time you get to sit around your table. And so it's okay to hold both of those things in your hand, and that can be a beautiful thing. And so just going back to the very beginning of this, you know, when all of this is said and done, when we can be with our friends again, we can be outside with other people, you know, we can congregate in large groups, you know, when your kids get back to their normal routine and they have sports 3 times a week, you have 3 birthday parties in one weekend, you have another event to go to. What will you have done now? What will you have done in this moment to be healthier as a family? And what will you have done with your relationship with God? When all the craziness starts to come up again, you know, what conversations will you have had with your kids? And what devotions will you have done that you know you can always come back to when your life starts to get crazy again?
Yeah, definitely. You know, just the value of being able to, you know, obviously life can get so chaotic and crazy that it can just be hard to honestly be able to hear the voice of God or even distinguish the voice of God. And I think
Yeah,
that there's just such a value in being able to take these times to pause and just to quiet life down and listen to the voice of God,
yeah,
because then we need to learn to press play as well, and to take, you know, obviously to continue to hear the voice of God in our regular lives, because we're still called to be the light into the church. And I'm not going to spend too long on this press play. I know we've taken up a decent amount of your time, but I did want to hit on a few things here that I think that we can really do, that we can be the church around us. This may not be the season to put on the free hugs T-shirt and go to Walmart, and you know, this may not be that season, but there are other things that we can do. Um, to really be a light to the world around us. And I encourage you to be thinking about the people, especially who are most vulnerable during this time. You know, the elderly are going to be very vulnerable. And I'm just thinking about things that families, you know, I'm thinking about student ministry, things that students can do. um, they can, you know, maybe go, the grass is already starting to green up. It's like way too early. This is crazy. But I know that, you know, there's going to be some lawns that might need mowed. You know, maybe there's still some leaves that need raked for some people, for elderly. You can even go and, you know, have an elderly person stay in a back room and you clean their house and disinfect the whole place for them while they're back there. Or, I mean, there's just so many things that you can be doing. in those cases. Think about people who are lonely, like maybe people who are already alone before this, but now this was just going to add to that, just the social distancing. So maybe make some intentional calls and texts, write a card. Cards just have special meaning. It's pretty neat. Think about people who are health compromised. They're already their health is a little shaky. So be thinking about them, add them to your daily prayer list, and contact them, connect with them. Just let them know that you're praying for them. Think about young families. They're especially if they're overwhelmed during the season. They have certain times where they're like, okay, they can get the kids out of the house, have some sandy. They don't got that anymore. So, and especially if sickness is involved, then it's just a lot, to go on. And so just be thinking, how can you serve people like that? Think about the helpers. There's a lot of helpers out there. There's first responders. There's people in the healthcare profession, people who are going to be in contact even much more with the possibility of getting COVID-19. And so put them in your prayers. Maybe make a batch of cookies and take it down to them. Maybe you can go down and, maybe not lay hands on them, but you can be praying for them, like in their presence or something. I mean, just be thinking about different ways. Like I said, I think I've talked to a couple people in the healthcare profession. They're like, especially people that I know who aren't Christian. I mean, they're afraid. Their families are afraid. One of them had just had a kid, and he's like, I got to go work, but then I'm going to go home to my newborn. What if I pass along this to my newborn? And just some fear that people have, because this is where they're at. They've given their lives to serving other people, but there's some danger that's involved with that. So be thinking about them. Be thinking about the military. Maybe write them some cards. I know I've talked with one of my former students who's in the military, and he's kind of quarantined on his own right now, because they're going through special steps too. But be thinking about them. Send them a care package. Thank them for what they're doing. Think about the people who are most impacted by all this: food insecure people, job insecure people, or people who have maybe even already lost their job. One thing I was thinking about with teens, you're used to this digital world. Maybe go and teach somebody else, somebody that doesn't know how to do this, because now they're maybe somebody who's older who doesn't know how to connect, and maybe you can go teach them, set some stuff up for them, or maybe just create content. This is a chance for your faith to shine. You can create content that glorifies God, that kind of gives light in the darkness. So look at creating content. Um, Historically, it has been during these times that the church has shined the brightest. And when others shied away, it's the church that moved in. And even though we definitely want to be wise about this, but we also need to remember to be strong and courageous and find ways to show God's love. So just my final thought is this: in First John, it talks about darkness and light. And I tell you, it just feels like darkness right now. Quarantine, fear of sickness and death, insecure financial times, just instability all around us. But God has called us to be a light, not only to hold a light inside of us, but to make sure we don't put a cover over that. That we be the light, that we shine the light. And there's some really unique opportunities we have. Our churches are outside the building right now, and it's a chance for us to make sure that light is shining in all the different ways. It's so I encourage you to let that light shine. Don't be afraid. As Christians, we are called to never hide that light that we hold inside. In 1 John 1:5-7, it says this: "This is the message we have heard from him and declare to you: God is light. In him there is no darkness at all. If we claim to have fellowship with him, yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not live by the truth. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another." I love that. We have fellowship. That's one thing people don't feel right now, is this idea of fellowship. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, the awesome thing is, as a fellowship or as a brotherhood, sisterhood of believers, we still have fellowship. We're still connected because we are united in one God, in one common purpose. And the blood of Jesus, his son, purifies all of us from sin. So we have fellowship together, and here's how we shine. And just one other real quick passage is 1 John 3:16 through 19. It says this: "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother in need but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. This, then, is how we know that we belong to the truth and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence." It's just a reminder that we are in God's presence when we live in love, and don't just show it in our words, but in our actions. And how can we do that during this time? I think there's some great opportunities that we have. Thank you for your time with us. But before I let you go, there's a few things. One is there is a poll that I'm going to see if I can figure out how to pull up right now. We would love to hear back from you on, let me see here. There we go. I think it launched. Okay, right there. Go and check it out. Let me see. Do you guys see it? Somebody comment if you don't see it. Or if you do see it, let me know. Because we just want to hear back from you. What are some things that we can be doing for some of our future episodes? We're planning on meeting every night here. It probably won't be this long. This was our first one.
Every
We were
week,
kind of,
not every night.
oh, did I say month? Oh, my bad.
No, you said every night.
Oh, every night? Wow. That was really ambitious. No, every week on Thursdays from 8 to 8:30. It won't be this long every week. The other thing, though, Kristen, are you able to see that poll?
I
Is it
can
up?
see it and
Okay,
I
it's
can
up live right
vote.
now. Oh, yeah, I'm seeing some responses already. Okay. Yeah, I
Ooh.
had how can I practically deal with fear and anxiety? How can I structure my family's schedule in the quarantine? How can I teach my kids? Also, maybe you want some current COVID information, just kind of what is currently happening from a doctor. We can do that in some future weeks. And also, if there's anything else that you can think of, we would love to hear from you. Put it in the chat and we'll look at that and kind of use these things to help determine what we're going to be doing in some of the future weeks. The other thing is we'd just have a couple moments. If any of you need to get off, that's totally fine. But we just kind of wanted to open it up for some question and answers, and that's all going to happen through chat. So if you have any questions, I encourage you to put it down there, and we'll try to answer any of the questions here for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we'll be done. So we encourage you to write down any of those things. I'll give a couple minutes till we close the poll. And we still have the handouts that are available there. I can't see myself. I think it's because the poll's up. So
Yeah.
I'm blind right now. I can't see myself. All right, we'll give it just a few more seconds and then we'll close the poll. 71% have voted. That probably means me. Have you
Yeah.
voted, Kristen?
It says organizers and panelists don't vote.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay. Well, let us know what you think. If you thought this was a helpful thing for you. Like I said, we hope to do this weekly and really get out information that can be helpful for you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the voting. There we go. I'm back on screen now. And here's I think you can see the results now. So we had 80%, how can I practically deal with fear and anxiety? 60%, how can I structure my family's schedule? 20%, how can I teach my kids? Like basically what that was, I didn't explain that, was you're going to be teaching your kids now because there's no school. So how can I do that? 20% how current COVID information from a doctor. So we'll kind of look at those things and put those into kind of use to determine what we're going to be doing on some of the next weeks. Give you just a few more little bit here. If you guys have any questions, please put those in the question area. We would love to answer any of those as we can. We hope everybody's had a good day.
Yeah.
And has had a blessing of a family. Has everybody been able to manage things at home? Has it been chaotic? I like your centerpiece back there, Kristen. That's good.
Thank you.
Did you do that yourself?
The window I bought, but
Okay.
the wreath I hung, and then I just add different things for different holidays.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's spring.
Mm-hmm. It's very good. I'm in my office still.
Yeah.
It's very boring.
Didn't go
A
home
bunch
at
of
all.
books over there that make me look smart, but I never really use. That's what they're there for. Well, thank you, everybody. I am not seeing any questions, so thanks for being here and have a wonderful night. And we hope to see you next week. Let people know. Like we said, though, there is going to be online services this weekend. So make sure you go to our website and you can watch the live stream. You can share that with other people. We encourage you to do that. Also, there is going to be curriculum, or there has been already curriculum that's been sent out by Kristen and I through the, I think went out on the church email. So you can check that out. If you want information on that, if you didn't get it, please let us know. And next week we'll be meeting on Thursday night, 8 to 8:30. And yeah, so have a great night. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Let's see if I can cancel this.